I am Marie Khalife, JCI Beirut VP for Community Development. I'm here in the name of Jessica Al-Harib, who is our JCI Beirut president, who sadly cannot be here today. She sends her apologies. Thank you very much for joining us. We are happy to collaborate today with JCI Beirut for this session on attracting and engaging sponsors that is held by our very own Mohammad Hijazi. Mohammad Hijazi is the 2020 JCI Vice President assigned to Benin, Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Djibouti, Ghana, Madagascar, Mauritius, Nigeria, and Togo. He was born on June 11, 1989 in Saida in Lebanon and holds dual degrees in Marketing Communication and Biology from the American University of Beirut, and he is also a leading communication consultant, trainer, and digital strategist. He is a pioneer in digital marketing and was one of the earliest to educate businesses on the importance of digital in Lebanon and in the Middle East. He is certified from the US State Department as well as Google and has consulted for international organizations including the European Union, the United Nations, the British Council, UK embassies, the World Economic Forum, Leo Burnett, and over 100 and plus clients across different fields and countries. His expertise includes creating and implementing marketing strategies, business trainings, influencers, public relations, copywriting, and project management. His portfolio includes more than 100 events that he led and organized, and he also co-authored a book entitled Contemporary Management, published by McGraw-Hill, and is taught in universities across the Middle East. He joined JCI Beirut in 2014, becoming the local director for communications in 2015 and the national director in 2016. In 2017, he held the position of national vice president for recruitment and outreach and attended the 30th JCI Academy in Japan. Then, in 2018, he served as JCI Lebanon national president. At the international level, he currently serves as 2019 JCI Skills Development Community Member for Africa and the Middle East, and has attended 4 area conferences, 5 World Congresses, countless national and regional events, as well as 4 areas, and has motivated more than 1,000 members worldwide. In 2019, Mohammad Hijazi received the JCI Senatorship, number 78059. He is passionate about working on 2 UN SDGs, which are quality education, decent work, and economic growth. He is fluent in English and Arabic. Before we start this session, I would like to recognize Ms. Rania Haddad, 2013 Executive Vice President for Africa and the Middle East, Aline Shirinian, our JCI Lebanon National President, Franchette Emilian, JCI Mauritius National President, Karishma Ansaram, JCI Mauritius National Treasurer, Ahmad Arifi, JCI Morocco VP for International Affairs, Igor Tassigin, JCI Croatia Secretary General, JC Anant Batusha, JCI India National Coordinator for Chamber of Commerce, Vaishali Bidazi, JCI Catborn Local President. Thank you very much for your help in making this possible. Gavin Patton, who is the JCI Port Louis Mauritius Local President. Midja Petilaire, JCI Pointe-à-Pitre in France Local President. As well as Simfawe Zuma, JCI Sandton South Africa Local President. Ibrahim Traoré, JCI Emeraude Côte d'Ivoire Local President. Aki Patro Modono, JCI Bandung Indonesia Local President. And Fakir Izani, JCI Bandung Indonesia Local Vice President. And a big welcome to our international guests from Morocco, Nigeria, the Netherlands, and in Indonesia and Madagascar. Mohammad, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? Very happy to be here with you today. And I'm very happy to see friends from all over Africa and the Middle East, friends from all over Europe joining us today for this really exciting session. I'd like to thank JCI Lebanon and JCI Mauritius for the opportunity to give this training get together. 2 national organizations that are very dear to me. So as you all know, today we'll be talking about attracting and engaging sponsors for different projects. And I see some people here who are not JCI members, which I would like to say that this training is not necessarily just for JCI members. You can really benefit a lot from what we're going to be talking about today in regards to your personal or professional projects that you might want to get sponsors for. So first of all, I'd like to apologize in advance for any disconnections that might happen throughout the session. As you might know, I'm in Lebanon right now, and the internet and electricity situation is not the best. So in case I get disconnected, I will count on Mary and MJ to entertain you while I get reconnected. So let's get started. Right. So as I said, we're going to be talking about today how to attract and engage sponsors, and we're going to be talking about different topics that would include how to engage and attract sponsors during this time of the coronavirus pandemic, but that will be the last session. First, I would give a short introduction about sponsorship. Sponsorship is a means of supporting an event, project, or organization by providing money or other resources of value to the activity in question. The sponsor generally receives advertising space or other publicity at the activity in the exchange for its support. Getting the right sponsors to join forces with you can make a big impact on the success of your event or project. It is a guaranteed revenue stream, and if you partner with relevant companies, the relationship will also provide added value to attendees. So that is in general what a sponsorship means, and now we're going to discuss some rules for sponsorship hunters. So people who are looking for sponsorships. So a sponsorship is more than just sticking a logo on everything. Follow the rules I'm going to be talking about to ensure that you find the right sponsor for your organization or project. So the first thing that we need to know is that there's no such thing as free money. Before I talk about this, in case you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section, and I will get to them at the end of each section. So JCI Mauritius will be helping us moderate the questions. So as I said, there's no such thing as free money, and it's not just about sponsorship, it's about how the world works. Sponsorship is not just about your needs as an organization or as a project. It's also about the sponsor's needs. It won't work if the relationship is too lopsided one way or another. So the first thing that you need to consider is when you want to find a sponsorship is what can I give my sponsor, or how will my sponsor benefit from partnering with me? And that is very important, because if you go with that mindset to attract a sponsor, it's completely different than going to ask or beg them for money. And this is usually, you will get more success if you use this approach. And I'm going to talk about this more throughout this training. Another thing is that sponsors do not have to love you. Sponsors don't need to share your passion for your cause in order to sponsor you. They just need to be able to see the commercial benefit. It's important though that you have compatible values, and this is a really important point. If you are doing a project about improving the environment, about going green, about all of that, you definitely should not be approaching a sponsor that is polluting the environment, an oil company or any sort of company that is polluting the environment in terms of not recycling or not doing something like that. So it's very important that whatever you're trying to do, you have compatible values. If you're working about women empowerment or gender equality or racism, you should not be working with organizations that have proven in the past that they are racist or sexist. So it's very important to have these compatible values for your reputation and for people to take you seriously as an organization. But also, you have to think about that maybe you will not be on very good terms with the sponsor as long as your commercial benefit is good for both sides. So sponsors don't have to love you; they just need to think of it as a business transaction. Definitely, it's always very important to look for a good fit. So do your best to gain sponsorship from companies or organizations or brands that seem a natural fit with your event or organization. It's exhausting to be continuously trying to ram a square peg into a round hole. So what that means is that don't try to force sponsorships, even if they're giving you money, but they're gonna give you hell working with them for 3 or 6 or months or 1 year in order to achieve your project. Then you will be exhausted even before your project begins. And that's why it's very important to look for a good fit, not only just for the money, but also a cultural fit. Have your members be able to communicate and be able to have a good relationship with the sponsor, because if they're always fighting together, it's not going to be very fruitful. It's also important to know that sponsorship is not a one-person thing. It's a job for a team. Be sure that your whole organization understands why sponsorship is important to you, and the whole team and the whole organization or project team is prepared to treat your sponsor like marketing partners. So whenever you're setting a meeting with a sponsor, everyone who is going to that meeting should know all the details about the project, all the details about the sponsor, what are your values and what are the values of the sponsor, because they can't just go and say things in a meeting that makes them look that they don't know anything about the sponsor or your organization, and that will make you look bad. So it's very important that you have a team and that the team is very well prepared. Another thing to remember is that when you're approaching a sponsor, it's no longer just about the logo. It used to be that whenever we go to a sponsor, what we used to offer them is to put their logo on things. And lately, it's no longer about that, because a sponsor wants to gain something that is just beyond putting their branding on things. While your sponsorship agreement might include the use of logos, it's not the only thing that you should offer them, and you have to make sure that if that's the only thing that you can offer them, you will definitely know that it's not going to be a very fruitful relationship. Another very, very important thing regarding sponsorship is to get started early. So don't count on starting your sponsorship search one day before and getting it all underway the next. These things take time, sometimes a very, very long time. Allowing plenty of time allow plenty of time in your forward planning. And we're going to talk about more when should we approach sponsors and how long before in the course of the training. Another really important thing is to get everything that you agreed on in writing, to have a contract or an MOU signed, because that will help you when there's any conflict, or if one of the sides did not fulfill what they needed to fulfill. So firm up all the details of your arrangement in writing. That way no one is left in doubt as to what has been agreed to. Also, when you're preparing your sponsorship kit and when you're thinking about the numbers, it's always better to aim high. It's better to get 1 or 2 big, meaningful sponsorships in place than lots of small ones. There's less clutter for them and less sponsorship management for you. And trust me, if you have a big event and you have 10 sponsors, you will waste your time managing all those small sponsors. So it's better for you to aim high, get a bigger sponsor to cover your event and not care about the smaller ones, so that you can actually focus on the objectives of the event or project that you want to do. And then also it's very important to allow time for relationship building. So don't ever think that once you've gotten the check in your hand or the cash, your job is done. As with most things, and fundraising, sponsorships are all about the relationship. You need to be in regular contact. You need to give thanks where it's due, and you need to ensure that you're always doing what you said you would do. So it's really important when you're managing or when you have a sponsorship and it's secured, that you build a relationship with this partner to make them feel as part of your team. And trust me, it's going to sometimes be very hectic because the sponsor will be calling you 3 or 4 times a day to check up on things, to ask you questions. And if you don't reply positively, then they will either take their sponsorship back or they will not work with you in the future. Is there any questions up to this point?
There's nothing in the chat.
So no, I don't see any questions. Zahra has a few questions. Sure. Okay, so she's asking, how do we identify the sponsors? I'm going to talk about that actually in this section. Okay, let me continue, and I will get your questions at the end of this section, just so that you know what I'll be talking about in general. Do we need a lawyer to be present? Usually you do not need a lawyer. It depends on the type of your organization and the type of the sponsorship that you're getting. But usually with most sponsorships, if you have a memorandum of understanding or a written contract that is signed between both of you, you usually do not need a lawyer to be present. Now, if it's something very big, that you're embarking on, you might want to have a lawyer look at the contract or the memorandum of understanding just to be on the safe side. But usually, if you're going to a sponsor and you have a lawyer with you, it's not really a good image because that will show that there's no trust in a sense. So try as much as possible not to intimidate your sponsor, especially when you're meeting them for the first time. So the most important thing when you're starting your journey with sponsorship is to be well prepared. You cannot go to a sponsor and not have any preparations done. You have to be well prepared in order to achieve the desired results. You cannot approach a sponsor without having done any of the necessary research and work, and this will probably be the most time-consuming part of your sponsorship journey. So the first thing that you have to do is to define the fundamentals of the project or the thing that you need sponsorship. Before you can start finding the right sponsors, clearly articulate the differentiating factors of your project. So in order to know that, here's a few questions to reflect on how to help get to the core of the project identity. So what is the overall vision of your project? What overreaching goals are you trying to achieve through the project, and what are the values of your organization or the project? Even if you were to find companies who are interested in your project, you will only win them over once they buy into the project goals and vision. Thus, make sure to have these core factors explicitly defined before beginning the search. Being able to clearly communicate these values will be crucial in helping you find sponsors. So it's really clear when you're sitting with your team to identify the goals of your project, and definitely this is something you should be doing in terms of project management part of your project. But if you haven't done that, you should very importantly set these goals and make sure that your potential sponsors know what your goals are and what your vision is, and try as much as possible to have that aligned. And it's also important to understand why companies want to sponsor. If it's a goal to find companies that are interested in sponsoring projects, the primary step should be to understand why these companies are looking for sponsorships. In the end, sponsoring a project or an event is a significant investment, so it's important to become knowledgeable on the types of return on investment or ROI that these companies are expecting to see. So before you approach a sponsor, you have to put in mind that put yourself in their shoes. Think about them and put your mindset. They are giving you the money. What are they looking for in return? How are they going to measure if their money was well spent or not? So some of the things that you might think about is maybe how much more likes they get on their Facebook page, how many new leads they got to their business, how many people they met, a lot of different things, a lot of different benefits that we can think about. And before you actually start talking about the project, you can show them how you are able to meet some of these return on investment metrics. And to give you some examples, for example, on what are the benefits of sponsoring for a company. So most recently, people really want to increase their social media impressions. Because projects and events are a great platform for social media content, companies are see the perfect opportunity to elevate their social media presence through sponsoring projects. If your project is particularly well suited for social media sharing, companies will be very much interested in promoting their own social media channels and thinking of ways to push partner content. If executed properly, this can be a win-win for all parties involved. To give you an example about this, in 2018, we were hosting the World Cleanup Day for the first time in Lebanon. And one of our partners was Burger King, which you would not necessarily think that they care about the environment. But they had contacted us because they wanted to become more green and more environmentally friendly. So throughout the whole campaign, over 6 months, they were they joined the cleanup. They tried to change their packaging for the food that was being distributed on the day, made it all environmentally friendly, recyclable glass, not plastic. And they created a lot of content for the campaign on their social media and used World Cleanup Day as a way to show how Burger King is trying to become more environmentally friendly. So it was very beneficial for them on social media, and it was definitely beneficial for us to have a sponsor like that and distribute food to the volunteers in Beirut. Another benefit of sponsoring is collecting customer leads. So many companies are excited at the prospect of gaining more potential customers through sponsorship, especially if the attendee demographic overlaps with a target customer base. Companies see sponsorship as a great opportunity to grow the sales pipeline and increase the number of potential closed deals. So what this means is that definitely companies are going to sponsor you because they want to make more sales. It's very straightforward. It's probably the main reason people invest money, to make more money. So here you can show them how your members or employees as an organization and how the demographic of the project, the people impacted by the project, is relevant to their company. So this means that if your demographic, let's say, is youth, and the sponsor is something, let's say, about sports or something dynamic that really cares about having a youth demographic, that is definitely the exact place that they want to sponsor. So in JCI, all our members are 14 to 40 years old, and that is generally the youth demographic. So a lot of companies are having a hard time to target this demographic because of the changing ways of communication, social media, TikTok. They really don't know how to approach the youth demographic. And this is where we can come in as an organization and be able to offer that as one of the benefits of sponsoring your events. And this also relates to the third point that I'm going to talk to, which is gaining access to a specific demographic. Sometimes companies have a difficult time tapping into a certain demographic due to limited resources or general lack of exposure. However, these sponsorships offer a way to get in front of a specific target audience that may have been inaccessible otherwise. Companies are especially interested in sponsoring projects if the sponsorship can give the brand the exposure it needs in regards to a specific demographic. So as I said, sometimes they're looking for the youth, sometimes they're looking for the older generation. Also the older generation, the seniors, for example, are not very easily accessible. So if you're doing a project related to senior citizens, and a company, let's say, is trying to market some sort of medicine or cream or something for cater to the senior citizens, then you are able to connect them with that audience if your project is catered to that. So always try to think of how you can connect your sponsor to a specific demographic, or to increase your potential leads, or to increase social media impressions. And definitely there's a lot of other benefits, but these are just three key benefits that you can think of. And then you also have to define the sponsorship criteria. Having clearly established criteria for the types of sponsors that you want to partner with is crucial for the overall success of the sponsorship. It is helpful to keep in mind a few questions when speaking to potential sponsors to see if they would align with your project vision. So some of these questions to
We might have lost him for a second. He'll reconnect. It's not going to take a long time. He'll be back. In the meantime, feel free to tell us where you're from, so we can get to know each other. Hello, Shafi from Lebanon. Oh, he's tuning back in. All right, good.
All right, sorry about that. I got disconnected. Okay. So what I was talking about was these 4 questions that you should be asking potential sponsors. So when you ask these 4 questions, you will be able to know, you will show the sponsor that you not only care about getting the money, but also care about them achieving their goals as a sponsor, or benefiting from the sponsorship. Also, in order to find the proper sponsors and not waste your time with companies that probably are not going to be paying, it's very important to research companies that have sponsored projects similar to yours. So a good place to start would be to look up other events or projects similar to yours and to check out their sponsors pages. If these companies were interested in forming partnerships with these events or activities, there's a good chance that they'll be interested in yours. If possible, and if they're not a direct competitor, get in contact with the project manager and ask for tips on shaping your sponsorship package. Conversations like this will provide key insight as to what these companies are looking for. So if you have friends in these organizations or in these events, try to talk to them and see which sponsors were helpful, which ones were a headache, which ones paid in cash, which ones did not, if they're willing to give you this information. But definitely before going to any sponsor, it's very important to see what events they sponsored before. If you want to brainstorm on which sponsors that you can approach, see what events are happening in your community or projects, and see how they are, who is sponsoring them, what type of sponsorships they're giving. Sometimes if you see the sponsorship levels, you know the sponsor is paying more than this one. So it's very important to be able to do this research. There's also some online resources that connect organizers with sponsors, and some of them will work for you in your country on the national level, and some of them will not. But it's not, a bad thing to actually try these services. So one of them is Sponsor My Event, which is a platform for organizers and sponsors alike to connect with one another for potential partnerships. Sponsor Pitch also facilitates quick, smart connections between sponsoring brands and sponsorship opportunities. Sponsor Pack is geared towards event organizers, requiring all organizers to post event sponsorship proposals and then wait to be contacted by interested sponsors. And finally, the Sponseasy can be used by event organizers to create aesthetically appealing proposals and then post it on the network for potential sponsors to look through. Now we're going to talk about the proposals later on, but this is a website where we can help you design nice looking proposals. And the first impressions are usually everything when you're contacting sponsors. So in terms of how to find companies with the right resources, usually there are, you have to look for companies that are interested in sponsoring projects. They also must be in a position to do so. So I shouldn't be contacting companies that I know have no money or have no resources or too small to sponsor. So I need to think of which companies are in a position to be a sponsor. And here we have 3 examples of those. Companies with sufficient budget. So you can see how would you know if a company has sufficient budget? You can see that they're spending money on TV ads, they're spending money on billboards, they're spending money on marketing with usually platforms that cost a lot of money, that need a lot of money, such as TV, billboards. They're printing magazines. They're doing these types of traditional marketing. Also, you have to think about companies that have advertising or marketing departments, because usually if it's a small company with 2 or 3 people, they will not have the time to invest in sponsorship, or they might not even understand the need for it. If a company has an advertising or marketing department, they will more likely be willing to sponsor events to increase their exposure and marketing efforts. And then also companies through referrals from current sponsors. If you have current sponsors or even partners that are not paying you money, you can ask them for referrals to get sponsorships. And this is usually this happens a lot if you approach it correctly. So don't make your current sponsor or your current partner feel like you're using them to get a sponsor. But there are always ways that you can encourage them to recommend you to or refer you to other companies. So where do we find corporate sponsors? As JCI is an organization, you have a lot of members that are probably well connected, and you have probably a database of a lot of past projects and a lot of past partners and sponsors that you've worked with. So gather a list of gather your members and have everyone write down who they think might be interested. Who are they connected to? Who do they know? It might be their family, their friends, their extended connections. So make that list with contacts and try to approach company one by one. So this is the second point. Have your project committee members make a list of businesses that they have connections with, and gather a list of prospects with contacts info from the last year's projects or the past projects that you've done. Ask your board and members who they know at local businesses as well, and look through, if you have a sponsor or donor database, look through your payables for sponsored prospects. So your payables here are your suppliers. If you are hosting an event and you need to rent chairs for the event or sound equipment or a stage, try to get that supplier to be your sponsor if you give them the right perks. So even if they won't give you everything for free, they might give you a discount in return for being at your event, tickets, having their logo, having a speech at the event, things like that, roll-up banner, all those things. And then look around the community for companies that have a mission that is aligned with yours. Now, when you're approaching a company, you have to focus on the key decision makers. In the end, it will only be a handful of people who make the ultimate decision to sponsor your project. So with that in mind, make sure to reach out to those individuals sooner than later. And in order to identify who these people are in the company that you're interested in, you can use tools such as LinkedIn or Hunter.io in order to find these people. So they are helpful tools for targeting relevant stakeholders. Once you find their contact information, send them a personalized sponsorship email that will pique their interest. The more you know about each stakeholder, the more you'll be able to craft the ideal messaging to further persuade them to become a sponsor. So here's some more in depth about how to find these key decision makers. Definitely avoid the obvious titles. Finding the right contact for selling sponsorships means positioning yourself as strategically as possible. So people think that if I contact the CEO, he will definitely sponsor me. But sometimes the CEO doesn't have time, you're bothering them with emails, they might not even open the email. And sometimes even if they have a sponsorship manager, it should not be your first target, because this person is very swamped with offers usually. So go left when everyone is going right by seeking out less obvious options. So the brand team is your best friend forever in terms of sponsorship. Brand managers usually are like marketing departments, account managers. These people focus on the public image of the organization or company, which is one of the strongest benefits of sponsoring an event or product. So put them at the top of your list when you're reaching out. For smaller companies, try to follow the money. Anyone in charge of budgeting at the national or regional level will likely be in control of funds available for sponsorship. So this is in case a company does not have a marketing or a brand department. And then consider who you already know. There's no reason why a company you already have a relationship with couldn't be your sponsor. Start within your network and reach out to people you have a dialogue with already. So sometimes, even if you don't know the brand team, but you know someone else in accounting or in sales or in whatever department, have that person introduce you to the person that you want to contact. That way, it's a referral and is usually viewed highly or better than just sending them an email and if you don't know anyone. Now let's talk a bit about the timing. Experts say that May, June, and September are the best months to contact sponsors, since sales will likely be at a high. So you have to put yourself in the company's shoes. They usually sponsor when they have money. And when do they have money? When their sales are high. And usually that's around the summer, not considering this year for sure. The holiday months, for example, Christmas, Easter, Eid, even though they might be selling a lot, are the worst times of the year to pitch sponsors because companies are spending all of their marketing budgets on holiday promotions. And as JCI is not a charity organization, so usually if there's going to be any types of sponsorship, those will go to like feeding the poor or one-time non-sustainable projects. And if you are doing a project around that, you should definitely be contacting your sponsor in September if you're doing a Christmas campaign and not 10 days before Christmas. Because if they're going to give you any money for that, in January because of the 1 year to lead system. If you have a proper strategic plan and if you have a proper action plan set at the General Assembly in November, usually, or October, then that is when you should be targeting sponsors for next year. If you have a list of the projects that you are planning to do in the next year, go to the sponsors in October and tell them in March or April or June of next year, we want to do this project. If you're interested, why don't you include it in your budget for next year? So there's so many potential sponsors that I've met with that have told us that you are too late to already fix the budget for the year. So if you go in January, you will have much less luck than if you go in October. The best way to get corporate sponsors to make is to make your project and sponsor experience worthy of their investment. So they have to feel that you are giving them enough attention, that your sponsorship experience fits their expectations in order for them to sponsor you and to continue to sponsor you. Are there any questions so far about the preparation part? Mary, do you want to read the questions?
Yes. So we'll have one question from Aki asking, how do we conduct the right approach when looking for sponsors? Which I believe has been generally covered. From Shafi, we have, I would like to ask how and when the right time a startup can start to search for sponsors.
So for a startup, it's more of an investment rather than a sponsor, which is a bit different. When you have a startup, you are usually looking for an investor to put in money or an angel investor, but they would usually either get some sort of percentage of your business, or if you are have some products, they might get some percentage of the profit or shares or different things. And then usually you should be able to demonstrate that your startup is running, that you already have some sales, that you have a proven track record in order to get a sponsor or an investor for a startup. So in that terms, you have to have your business plan ready. You have to have tested your product or service to show them data. So the best time I would think for a startup is to have something tested, something tangible that you can take to an investor or a sponsor to look over, and that is generally if they see good results, they were more likely to sponsor you than if you just take to them a written plan with no results. I hope that answers your question.
Then we have a question: are the points that you are discussing written somewhere? Are you going to share them with us later on?
Yes, the slides are already up on SlideShare, and I'll share the link with you on the WhatsApp group.
Mm-hmm. And what is the best recommended frequency to inform the sponsor about the progress of the project? Weekly, monthly?
That really depends on your project, and that depends on your sponsor. Some of them like big sponsors that I've worked with in the past, they would call you daily to get updates, especially as your project is closer. Some of them don't really care about any of the updates. So it's something that you can discuss with your sponsor once you make the deal. You ask them how often do they need to be informed about what's happening. Sometimes they tell you, we don't care as long as you're meeting the specific requirements that you agreed on. Some of them want weekly or monthly. So there's no set rule about this. You just need to communicate with them. But it's always good to at least have them in your newsletter, subscribe to your newsletter, or sending them updates once a month for long-term projects, just to have them feel engaged and as if they're part of your team. Any other questions? Okay. So now let's talk about creating a sponsorship kit. Creating a sponsorship package to send to the sponsors on your list is really important because it makes you look professional. It's better to have something in your hand and go with something printed or sent by email than just show up at your potential partner's office or on a Zoom meeting without having anything tangible to show them. So your goal is to make sponsorship appear to be a win-win business deal rather than a simple donation. And this is how you should always think about sponsorships. It's a win-win business deal, not someone giving you a donation. So first of all, you have to write an executive summary, which is included in your sponsorship packet. So this is like a mission statement about the project or the event that you hope to have sponsored. It should be around 250 to 300 words, like a half a page to a page, that describes in detail what a sponsorship will fund, why you seek the sponsorship, and how being a sponsorship will benefit them. So if they read this paragraph or this short summary, they will know all of these important things. It shouldn't be full of fluff or words that are cliche. It should be something really meaningful for them to consider sponsoring you. And then in the sponsorship kit, these are some of the things that you should include. An overview about your organization and past projects. So if you go to the sponsor, they might not know what your organization is. Many of them have never heard of JCI. So you have to inform them what the organization is on your local level, national level, and the international level, that you're present in 120 countries, that you're 105 years old, United Nations partner. All of those information need to be in your overview about your organization, and then show them what big events you've done in the past in terms of projects or events or conventions, and show them pictures, show them how many people attended, if there are any celebrities, if there's any media coverage, give them some numbers of how much exposure you got, how many clicks, how many likes, all of that. Show them some sort of analytics about the past events that you've done. Also include the attendees profile. So who is attending this event, or who are the beneficiaries of this event? How are they selected? And how can they be relevant to that sponsor? So if you're working with children, how can the children benefit the sponsor, or the youth, or the elderly, or startups? So depending on your project. Definitely you should include the event or project purpose. And if you have created any videos, marketing campaigns, ads, anything like that, you can also include them as an attachment or a link. And then what are these sponsorship packages or benefits that they can get? And we're going to talk about that in detail. Also in the packet, you should include the terms and conditions. So including what happens if either party doesn't fulfill their obligations, for example, or the event was canceled, what would happen, or things like where their logo will go, how can they use your logo if they want to create content, things that are you expect from them. And also things like if they're an exclusive sponsor or if they're not an exclusive sponsor, if you can have a competitor as a sponsor as well. So sometimes they tell you, let's say Burger King doesn't want McDonald's also sponsoring the same event. So you should also include that in the term of references or terms and conditions. And then you should also include that in your packages. Also include a call to action, so something that will excite them, like sponsor now or sign up now or something, you know, a call of action, maybe learn more on our website, include the more links. And then finally, you should always include a contact person. And this should not be the president of your organization. This should be the project director, because sometimes the president might not know a lot of the details. They might not have the time. They might not have been at the sponsorship meeting. So always include the project director, maybe have one or two people in case the project director was not available to take a call or answer an email. So these are basically the things that you can include. Now, thinking about the sponsorship models and thinking about the sponsorship packages, there's usually two types of models that we can talk about. And the one that you've usually seen the most is the tiered sponsorship model, which is the traditional approach where a variety of features are included in the sponsorship packages offering, depending on the sponsorship level. I'm going to show you some examples of that. But then there's also an a la carte sponsorship model or a customized sponsorship model, commonly used to serve sponsors with specific needs or goals. So flexibility and customization in their sponsorship packages are the key. So the tiered sponsorship model is basically the one that you usually see with gold, silver, platinum, different tiers. So platinum, gold, silver, and exhibitor, for example. But you have a lot of creative freedom to name the levels wherever you think best fits your project, theme, or brand. It's your chance to make it sound fun and appealing to sponsors. So what you have to do is to decide on the quantities or the amounts of money per tier. So you do that by determining how many sponsorship packages of each tier level you need to sell in order to achieve your project revenues goal. The more limited the quantity, the more you can the more that you can charge for the sponsorship package because of its exclusivity. So this will also encourage sponsors to commit earlier so that they'll be able to get a better product, or be able to better predict your revenue and plan your project. And then the third thing that you need to keep in mind is to distribute the sponsorship benefits per tier. So what you can do is get a piece of paper, write all the benefits that you can give to any of the sponsors, and then divide them up based on the tier itself. So let's see some examples to make things more clear. Actually, before that, I want to talk about how you decide on the amount. So definitely when you're doing any project, you have to put a budget, and you have to make sure that your budget includes everything that you might need to pay for, even if you're not going to pay for it. So sometimes you're getting a sponsor that will give you free food or free water. You still have to include that in the monetary amount in your budget, because what if that sponsor bailed out? Once you have that number, let's say everything that you need will cost you $20,000. Then usually that will be your platinum sponsor or your gold sponsor. If you get that the platinum sponsor to give you $20,000, then you will shift your efforts into working on the project, and rather than attracting other sponsors, even though you can still get other sponsors to make some profit for the project or your organization. But you will make sure that the highest tier you have, the exclusive sponsor, will be able to cover all your costs. So what usually happens is your highest tier is like the platinum tier, should be able to cover all your costs and even some extra. The gold tier, usually you will have two of those, so it will be half the budget. of your half your budget. So if your project will cost $20,000, the gold is usually 10. The silver is usually 1/4. The bronze is 1/8. So you will need 8 of the bronze, 4 of the silver, 2 of the gold, 1 of the platinum to achieve your goal. And then definitely sometimes you'll get two silver, 1 gold, or things like that. So, but make sure that you will be able to cover your costs with a platinum sponsor and go down from there based on the other tiers. And here we can see, for example, that the sponsorship names are not silver, gold, platinum, but they have made them lion, jaguar, leopard, lynx, and cheetah. And you can see the lion is the most important one because they get all the different benefits. And then you can see, for example, how many race entries or tickets that they get. So you can that can be one of the options of the things that you can give them. And then also try to divide the perks into the pre-event, during the event, and after the event, things that they will be getting. So this is just one example. It's also very important to see that it's very colorful, it's very attractive to look at, it's very simple, so there's not a lot of text. They use dots to give you more information about which perks are included in your package. And then the other one, another example also. So this also, they use different names than just gold, silver, platinum. So grassroots advocate, organizer, movement builder, community leader, and champion. And here we can see, you can clearly see that the more that you pay, the more benefits that you get from sponsoring. Now we can read some of the sponsorship benefits to give you just examples. So recognition during the opening program, name logo featured on the website. They can also give you a brochure that you include in your giveaway kit. Here they're saying to 500 students. There's a priority tabling placement, so they get better tables during the youth summit. Their logo is at least in 2 emails, for example, and you show them how many subscribers you have on social media, how many followers you have. Name in at least 2 emails to our list. Name or logo featured in the main session presentation. Opportunity for your business to have a table or a booth, and then name or logo featured in the program. So there's a lot of things that you can think about. I'm going to give you some more examples after I talk about briefly the a la carte sponsorship model, or this is the customized approach. So sometimes when you are doing an event, you have very specific niche companies that you want to work with, and they will not probably care about the gold, silver, platinum model. They care about more specific things that they want to get. So let's say if you're working with an environmental company, they care about, let's say if you're planting trees, they care about having their logo on somewhere in the garden that you're planting, or like a plaque, or they care about having specific types of trees that they provide be planted somewhere, or have any specific type of recognition that they want. Then for them, you can create a customized sponsorship model. It will be similar to one of these. So you can give them a list of what are the benefits that they can get without showing them all the other prices. So you tell them, for you, because you are interested in, let's say, education or whatever topic, you give them benefits that are related to that. For example, before the pandemic, JCI Beirut has been, we created a partnership with Beritech, which is an entrepreneurship ecosystem, one of the leading ones in Lebanon, where they host startups and they do training and all of that. And then JCI Beirut needed a place to conduct the training or the members meeting as well every month. So in order for us to not pay hotels or venues for this, what we did is we created a customized sponsorship model for Beirut. We didn't give them any of these. We told them that what are the things that you are interested in getting from our organization in return for hosting us for 120 hours a year. So what they did, they told us they really care about having training conducted specifically for their own startups. And they wanted some of our senior members to consult startups on different things such as marketing, business, finances, etc. So we came up with a specific model for them to gain what they want, which is 12 hours of training a year, 12 hours of consulting in return for 120 hours of venue space. And that way, it's something customized. We probably will not give it to any other or a lot of other sponsors, but it's something that both ways we are benefiting. They don't really care about having their logo up, for example. They don't really care about a lot of the traditional things that you put in the sponsorship package, but they cared about getting training and consulting for their startups. So this is one example of what you can do based on what the needs of your sponsor are. So here, just to give you some examples of some sponsorship benefit ideas before, and as I said, we can divide them into 3 different parts: before, on-site, and after. And before the event, you can include the sponsor's logo on your event registration page. Any marketing communications promoting the event, such as registration invite emails, for example. Provide social media shout outs to promote the sponsors, provide them with your sponsored speakers to encourage session attendance, include pre-event sponsored giveaways when promoting registration. Send sponsored emails to target segments of your audience. This is very important also if you have different segments. So if you have a group of trainers, for example, you can send them information related to trainers from your sponsor. On site, so it's very important to have some visibility for your sponsor during the event. And this can include, for example, challenges where your attendees need to interact with the sponsors or visit their booth in order to collect points or prizes. You can also promote these sponsors' offers and or giveaways that can be included in your main program. Also, send sponsored emails to a targeted segment to your audience during the event. Enable sponsors to connect with attendees on one-on-one via a messaging function, for example, or what you can do is set up a lounge for your sponsor to meet with different attendees. Also, you can place the sponsor's logo definitely on the printed and or digital marketing material signage displayed in the event registration area. And then you can also hold on-site competitions and or giveaways by your sponsor. And then after the event, definitely should include the sponsor's logos and or mention that in a post-event email or survey sent to the attendees. Create a social media post to thank them. And sometimes it's important to share some of the analytics that you got from the event with them. You send them a report of how successful your event was and how their sponsorship helped you do that. So some more or less cliche things that you can do, and we've been seeing these a lot recently in conferences and events. Interactive art installations where people can actually come and take pictures or do things with their hands, or play a game or do something like that is sponsored by your sponsor. Sponsored live streams of, let's say, Twitter feed, the hashtag feed. If you're doing a live streaming video, you can do virtual reality installations. You can do sponsored lounges, as we talked about. Something very interesting is Wi-Fi and phone charging stations for people who need to use the internet or charge their phones. It will be branded with your sponsor. It can also be branded food and drinks if you're giving away food. It can be the stickers on the labels or things like that. You can also do a stress reducing station. People can go and relax after sessions or after events. You can also do an illuminated smart wall or table with things going on related to your sponsor. You can have them sponsor your social media feed or have some short fitness and wellness sessions with a trainer that they get or sponsored by them, and you can have a lot of unique giveaways. So try to think outside the box when you're trying to offer benefits for your sponsors, because they'll be more excited to do something new and exciting rather than just having a roll up banner or logo. So any questions so far?
Yes, there's a question in the chat from Aki saying, when we look for sponsorship for the organization, is it allowed to give compensation using the JCI resources, for example, giving them customized leadership training based on the JCI official trainings for their staff? Or is that exclusively for JCI members and we cannot modify it?
So there are two questions here, or is it?
There's two questions. The first one from Aki and then the second one.
Okay, no, I mean, okay. So you, by using JCI resources, you mean that the official courses. Now, definitely you can customize the official courses so that they can be used for sponsors. Now, but you have to keep in mind that some of the official courses are mostly JCI related. So the fundamental courses, JCI Achieve and Impact, which are now JCI Discover and JCI Admin, these are purely JCI courses. But there's other courses that we have that might be relevant to anyone, that are the communication series or the facilitator course or presenter, or most of the leadership courses or the advanced courses can be customized to be given to partners. However, only JCI members can get the certification for those courses. So because they really can't do anything with a certification if not a JCI member. So that's one thing to consider. And then you can adopt them to fit your sponsor or your partner. But it's also important to give them other trainings, for example, such as this one, or another one that I usually give is how to conduct online meetings. So try to create courses or sessions that would benefit them more than just the JCI official courses.
The other question that we have is from Nassim saying, is it always necessary to have an official paper or electronic agreements between the sponsor and the project?
Yes, I think it's very important to have something documented, because people are usually flaky. So sometimes you have an agreement with a sponsor and they disappear. And if you don't have anything written down, or if you don't have anything established that you can refer to, then you can't really hold them liable. You have to think about it as I said, as a business transaction and not just a donation, because you are giving them something in return. And if they don't fulfill their duties, then they should be held accountable. And I don't mean accountable by suing them, but sometimes it's just that you know not to work with that company anymore. And in order to have that record for future leaders in your organization, it's better to have things written down. And also to have things written down really minimizes conflict if you have agreed on them before. If you haven't written them down, then every party will say, we agreed on this or we agreed on that, and then you have another conflict. So for me, it's very important. It doesn't have to be a very long legal document. It can be a one-page thing that party 1 agrees to 1, 2, 3, party 2 agrees to 1, 2, 3, and it's signed and dated, and that's it. So it doesn't have to be very complicated, but from my experience, it's important to have things written down. Any other questions?
Nothing for now, just a thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, now let's talk about how to actually approach sponsors. So now that you have everything prepared and thought out, it's time to actually go and talk to these sponsors. You have your kit ready. So now that you have your kit, actually, it's also important to craft an initial packet when you inquire. So usually the first thing that you're going to do is to either email or call a potential sponsor. And when you do that, you should not directly send them the sponsorship kit with the prices and the benefits and all of that. Think about it of the way that you're either like teasing them or testing the waters before you give them all the details. So take part of this, take a part of your kit that you created to do a sort of introduction document, which is usually a well-designed and branded 3-page PDF. So when approaching a warm or cold lead, so a warm lead is someone who you already know and you've contacted before, or a cold lead is someone you're emailing out of the blue. They don't know who you are, but you think they might be interested. So when you're approaching either of them, you try to drum up some of the interest in the project itself, not make an ask, or don't try to ask them something just yet. When you're sending your initial email, give them to a prospective sponsor, give them an introduction email that includes the project mission statement, who is coming to the event, or who are the beneficiaries of the project, the demographics, names, ages, for example. What things or themes you will be addressing during the project, why this project is unlike any other project that already exists, and the date, time, place, and any other logistical information. So just the basic information about the project, send it to them, and to test the water if they're even interested in this. And then after that, set up a call or a meeting before you send them the numbers, the details, the money that you're asking for. That way you can personally explain to them what the project is, or what the startup is, or what the thing that you're trying to sell them. So it's more likely to increase their interest in your project if you talk to them on the phone or meet them face-to-face rather than just sending them an email requesting sponsorship. This is especially important with large sponsorships or big media partners. You want them to feel like you're working together to co-create an experience, and the best way to do that is to start building a relationship rather than simply asking for money. And also avoid the scattergun approach, which means that sending hundreds or thousands of copy-pasted emails. It may be tempting to send out as many packets as possible to as many different places you can think of, using a bland broadcast designed to reach as many different avenues as possible. But this approach is wrong. You have to be judicious or selective in sending out packets, sending packets only to the companies you honestly think will be interested in your project. So this is where the individualized sponsorship packets come in. Send the potential sponsors on your list something customized. So personalize every single email. Don't as CC or BCC 100 different emails and send it to everyone, and people will see that you're just randomly sending emails to people. So personalize every single email, every single packet, every single correspondence you send out. Taking the lazy way out will only ensure that the project never gets the sponsorship it deserves. So also need to customize your approach in terms of the values of each sponsorship. So as sponsors start coming on board for your project or your organization, you have to think about the value that they're getting for how much money they're putting. So if you got one company contributing $10,000 to your project, how will you treat them differently than any other company contributing a couple of $100? The difference should be notable and substantial, from the perks you offer them to the publicity to the way you talk with them on the phone. So you should customize your approach based on how much money you're getting, and you shouldn't be treating all your sponsors the same way or giving them the same amount of attention, especially during the event when they can see each other. So these were just a few tips about how to approach the sponsors. Any questions about this?
There's nothing yet. Let's see if anything rolls in now. Okay,
so finally I want to talk about what are the things that you can do right now during the coronavirus pandemic. With the second wave coming to Lebanon and many other countries, it's still very difficult, and with the economic crisis, it's very difficult to get sponsorships these days. Not only that, a lot of the events got canceled, a lot of projects got postponed, many things moved online. So sponsors are less likely to see the value of paying money to do online events. So let's talk a little bit about how can you find and manage sponsorship during the crisis, and how should you adapt your approach. So the number one thing is you shouldn't hibernate. The worst thing you can do now is nothing. You have to reach out to your corporate sponsors by phone, personalized email, and handwritten notes, just asking how they are doing. It's important, as I said, because this is a relationship that you are building. It's as if a relationship with a friend or with your boss or with anyone really that you are communicating on a daily or weekly basis. So check up on your partners, see and your current or past sponsors, see how they're doing, see how their business is doing, just trying to check up on their health, for example. Remember, companies are made up of human beings. They too are worried about the future. Ask them how the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting their company and its employees. The other thing is, do not panic. Some of your sponsors will pull out their funding. That is very expected. Now is the time to position yourself as an organization that can adapt and that can continue to make an impact on the community or for the community. Remember that corporate sponsors want to jump on a winning bandwagon, not a sinking ship. So if your sponsor or your partner sees that you are freaking out, you're not doing any events, you don't know how to handle things, they will run away. But if they see that you've got a handle on things, you're still doing events regardless of everything, you're increasing your membership base, you are doing things that are impacting the community, they are more likely to join you with that and not, or if it's not, if they won't join you right now, they will have an image of you that you are capable of adapting to the worst crises. Also, you can turn Mission Impossible into Mission Virtual. So leverage this opportunity to catapult your mission into the modern era by bringing your services or events online and upgrading your in-person efforts to digital sponsor development. So going virtual will teach you how to expand the reach of your mission to the entire globe, increasing the impact of your sponsorships, reaching sponsors online, and also developing more robust ways to recognize sponsors outside of events, improving your ability to secure general or program sponsorships. So there's a lot of different things now that you can do with the surge of online training and webinars and events that you couldn't provide for your sponsor before in physical events. And you can think about those things that you can provide now. And one of those is for example, a global reach, which usually when in JCI Beirut we used to do training, mostly everyone who came to the training lived in Beirut because it was physical. But as evidence of today's training with people from all over the world, many different countries, it's an easy way to expose your sponsor to a global audience. And also, you should ask not what your sponsor can do for you, but what you can do for your sponsor. We already discussed this, but it's also very important right now during the COVID crisis. Ask what you can do to support their company, their employees, and their customers. You are, after all, a provider of vital services in our community as a JCI organization. Is there a way you can use your services and expertise to support your corporate partners now? So these can be things like tips for dealing with anxiety. You can do trainings for their employees on how to use technology, so how to use Zoom, how to use Google Meet, how to do projects online, meetings online, how to organize their projects, a lot of different tools that they can use. You can also do things like poverty relief for the community, or give them motivational team building exercises, or create social events to get the morale up of your partners, of their employees, and ask them, how can we help your team? Also consider the 3 P's of crisis: poll, pivot, and postpone. So ask your sponsor, if you already have a sponsor that you're working with for a specific project before the crisis, ask them what they think about turning your project into a virtual one. Give them some ideas about how you can possibly meet their sponsorship benefits in a different way, and get their suggestions as well. And pivoting or changing is, instead of canceling, considering implementing a virtual event. It can be a collaborative marketing event or a non-event, like a stay at home and give money or donate. Or you can postpone your event if it's something that has to be done physically. Canceling should be the last resort. Postponing your event to give yourself more time to either plan how to move it online, or how to, when it's safe to conduct physical events. But also consider how you might be able to pivot to an online format. So keep your sponsor or your partner involved in this, in the process of planning your project, because it will make them feel that they're involved, it will make them feel that their voice is heard, and they can even help you change the format, or they will be more satisfied if they're part of this process. And then, especially during this time, highlight the advantages of the sponsorship. So it's a good time to remind partners and sponsors of the benefits of working with you. For example, your project can give their brand more exposure and help them generate effective leads. Not only as these conversations are productive and positive, but they also help to cement your working relationship going forward. One of the first things you can ask your sponsor is, what can you add to their sponsorship package to sweeten the deal? And thank them for their patience and support. So if you already have a physical, if you already have a partnership or a sponsorship that's happening, talk to them, ask them, how can you make things better? If you cannot do things physically that you were supposed to do as part of your agreement, how can you replace that? And they would be happy. Also, another way to think about it is to ask your sponsors to help you solve some problems. So could they remove some, if they're giving you money, could they remove some restrictions on their last sponsorships so that you can use it for general operations or for a COVID response? Could they shift from being a project sponsor that they're paying you one time to a program sponsor, potentially making a greater impact on the mission, while also giving them a more unique branding opportunity? If they are not able to fund you this year, could they give you notice so that you can plan ahead, and when they are more likely to sponsor you? And also, could they introduce you to other funders who are doing better right now and who might be able to help you fill the gap? Or instead of cash, could they give you access to their talent or their resources to help you with converting an online, an in-person event to an online event? So these are some of the things that you can talk to your sponsors about in order to help you out solve some of your problems. So this is everything that I want to talk about today. So I'll be taking questions or comments or any specific things right now that you might have relating to this topic.
We have a great message from Rania Haddad. Very nice job. Well done, JCI VP Mo.
Thank you very much, Senator Rania. I'm very happy to have you with us today. I'm very happy to see all the members from around the world trying as much as possible to connect with different national and local organizations, and we're trying as much as possible to maintain their partnerships and sponsorships during this time.
Mm-hmm. As well as a message from Ibrahim Traoré from JCI Beirut, Côte d'Ivoire. Congrats, EVP, and thanks for everything.
Thank you very much.
And Sveishali wants to give us the final word. She's the JCI Beirut president.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you very much, VP Mohammad, because this was a really, really interesting session, especially that we are all kind of anxious on how to cope after within the COVID-19 crisis. And I want to give a really big thank you to JCI Lebanon and JCI Beirut, who have been superstars for organizing this session. And also thank you to all the participants who've made this even more interesting with their questions. I'm sure that whatever you've been thinking has been trotting in our minds. So, well, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you perhaps for another training, because this is one of the things that we can really maximize on at the moment.
Thank you very much, Ms. Local President. I'm very happy to have you and JCI Mauritius be on board. And as you might know, I really hope to have physical training with you guys by the end of the year as part of my official visits to my assigned countries. So hopefully, fingers crossed that I'll be able to do that once your airport opens in September, and hopefully we'll not be able to will be able to meet physically.
We have seen so much of you online that we can't wait actually for your visit now.
Thank you very much.
We are also going to send every possible way of contacting Mohammad and keeping in touch with everything that he's doing, and as well as a feedback form, which can help us a lot for future sessions. So feel free to fill that in. All right. If there are no other questions, I think we're good. Thanks everyone for joining. We hope to see you for future events. The presentation will be sent as well through the WhatsApp group. I hope we see you soon for future events, and have a good day.